And if you understand nature, you understand there is not a war between the sexes. We need to make love, not war. And you need to stop chopping your hair off and calling us toxic.
There's Jesse Waters going on and on with this latest topic that he seems to be obsessed with, which is telling women what to do and who to date. Now, there's more to his weird plea, but first we need to give you some context. That's the important parts of this story. Now, the five, we're discussing a story involving a rich heiress who allegedly paid someone $300 a day to deprogram the so-called wokeness from her daughter. Okay, so her daughter went to college and allegedly became woke, and it was so toxic and so terrible that they had to pay $300 a day to deprogram the wokeness. We'll show you a video of the daughter. Her name is Annabella Rockwell, describing what allegedly happened to her to Tucker Carlson in just a moment. But watch the video with a grain of salt, because she's now working for PragerU. And if you can recall from my debate with Prager himself, he loves to make up stories about how college students will, persecute a woman who says that she doesn't want to pursue a career and would rather be a homemaker, which is just laughable to say the least. But nonetheless, let's take a look at this video. Again, this is Annabella Rockwell.
As time went on and I studied history, I became completely brainwashed into believing that I was oppressed by our toxic patriarchal society. And I left school, I was sad, anxious, intellectually starving. And by 2015, when I graduated, I completely estranged myself from my family. So in this panic of me not communicating with my mother, she consulted a cult specialist. This person gave her devastating statistics that most people don't make it out, but a glimmer of hope that it tends to be young women who do. So she spoke to him and he made it very clear to her, do not affirm your daughter's newfound identity. You know her best, she is your child, don't affirm her.
Yes.
I made a lifestyle change, I stopped drinking, I started to believe in God again. And lastly, I had to unlearn my 4 years of wokeism by watching 5-minute PragerU videos online for free.
Okay, so that's the context that sparked this discussion with Jesse Waters. But before we get to Jesse Waters, I have to comment on something. Just don't go to college. No, it is interesting, right? Because right-wing parents who love to complain about wokeism on college campuses also send their kids to all sorts of expensive Ivy League schools, private universities. It's almost as if they know that, getting higher education is correlated to success in your career, in your life, more earnings. They just want to discourage you from sending your kids to college, or they want to discourage you from going to college in the first place, because they want the advantage. So they share all these ridiculous made up stories about wokeism on college campuses. We still have problems with rape victims not getting taken seriously on college campuses. You want to talk to me about wokeism on college campuses? And I'm sorry, one other thing I'll note. As a woman myself, who went to college, undergrad, graduate degree, got it all, okay? You know what I hear over and over again from people? Whether they're on the left, right, doesn't matter. When are you gonna have babies? When are you gonna have babies? When are you gonna have babies? When are you gonna have kids? When are you gonna have kids? When are you gonna have kids? Are you gonna get married? Or, by the way, I am married, but before I was married, when are you gonna get married? When are you gonna get married? When are you gonna get married? The idea that women get persecuted for wanting to be homemakers in this country is hilarious. But moving on, I just had to get that out. Waters engages in this rant because Jeanine Pirro brought up CRT on college campuses, and then Waters demanded that he not be discriminated against. So how is he discriminated against exactly? Let's watch.
Jesse, what Dane is talking about is the fact that 58 of the top 100 US medical schools have mandatory programs in the fundamentals of critical race theory that we've been told pretty much doesn't exist. It's a woke indoctrination to the doctors, and they're raising social justice as a focus. Is that relevant to medical school teaching?
Well, I don't want to be discriminated against as a straight white male by my physician. Like I said, if there's a mistake made and I undergo some radical gender reassignment surgery because someone has it in for me, that's going to be a problem.
So Cenk, I'm just gonna open it up to you.
Okay, so there's a couple of issues here. First, I'm gonna read you a graphic here to give you a sense of why they teach that in medical schools. But let's note for the record, she's like, they told us critical race theory doesn't exist. No, we never said that. We said critical race theory doesn't exist in elementary school and junior high and high school that you guys were talking about. We said it's a graduate level class. That's why you guys are being absurd saying that it's in elementary schools. And guess what medical school is? Graduate level college. Oh, right, that's where you would teach it. Isn't that interesting? Just like we told you. But you see how they just do that sleight of hand nonstop? So why do they teach that in medical schools? Black, and not all of them, but a lot of them, and that's great. Why? Because let's look at this. Black patients are systematically undertreated for pain, decades of research have shown. In the 2016 survey of 222 white medical students and residents, about half endorsed false beliefs about biological differences between blacks and whites.
Residents, like they've already gone through the medical training. They're residents and they think this. It's Jesus Christ.
And those who did also perceive blacks as feeling less pain than whites and were more likely to suggest inappropriate medical treatment for black patients, according to the paper published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. So they're teaching the doctors, hey, listen, the students, a lot of times, unfortunately, the meta studies have shown over a course of an incredible number of patients and doctors that unfortunately our profession does kind of discriminate against black people, but we're trying to fix that. So remember, guys, there is no difference biologically. That's what we're trying to teach you in medical school. We're trying to teach you biology between black folks and white folks. There are some diseases that affect one group more than another, and we're going to teach you about that too, because you need to be a doctor that knows facts, because we're trying to save people's lives, right? So there is no better place to teach that. And they're like, can you believe they're trying to save black people's lives too? And Jesse Waters comes in and goes, I hope they don't turn me transgender because I'm straight white male. And the Fox News audience is having the time of their lives. They think all this stuff is real. They don't know that Fox News is systematically lying to them and brainwashing them. They think, I bet the doctors discriminate against white people.
Yeah.
It's the exact opposite of what's true. Right?
By the way, the other thing that I would draw attention to is the high rates of maternal mortality during childbirth for black women, because their concerns and their pain and what they're experiencing is oftentimes not taken as seriously by medical professionals. So they end up dying during childbirth at much higher rates than white women, if you're doing a comparative analysis there. Now, we're talking about race, but without a segue, Jesse Waters takes this as an opportunity to get right back into his creepy thoughts about women and what they should do with their lives. Let's watch.
And I want to speak directly to the heiress right now. Dana, hold my hand.
Oh boy.
Jeez.
Women need men. And men need women. We need each other. And if you understand nature, you understand there is not a war between the sexes. We need to make love, not war. And you need to stop chopping your hair off and calling us toxic. We are on a mission. Yes, we peacock, but we peacock for your attention. So fall in love and let's all live happily ever after.
Well, I'm a big believer in seeing a particular gender not as a monolith, but as a group of people who are very different from one another oftentimes. So when I think about a man that I love deeply, my husband, he is on a completely different playing field than someone like Jesse Waters. So my husband wooed me not by letting the air out of my tires so I'm stranded and have no choice but to be driven home by him. He wooed me in other ways, in sharing who he is as a person. Also, he's, anyway, other things. But that Jesse Waters definitely doesn't share. But my point is, no, don't put yourself in a big group of men. You're not the same as all men. And look, for some people like me, yeah, I do love men. I find men incredibly important in my life, okay? You were and continue to be a mentor for me. You're an important male in my life. I love my husband, he's my partner. I wouldn't be able to do many things in my life without him because it's a partnership that works for us. There are people who don't, they're not into heterosexual relationships. And if I were lesbian, I'd find the same love and comfort in another woman. But this is all to say, it's none of your goddamn business, you creep. Mind your own business. And like, I mean, dude cheated on his wife with a producer who he's now married to.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone should be taking any advice from you on relationships.
So, and of course, why is he doing this? It's all political. You think he cares about you? I mean, that's the saddest part of all. That unfortunately, the Fox News audience and the Trump followers, they really think that Jesse Waters and Donald Trump and Tucker Carlson care about them. No, we've been telling you on the Young Turks exactly why Jesse Waters keeps going back to that same well since the midterm elections. But I'll show it to you one more time. Gender by marital status, how do they vote? Married women, 56% Republican, 42% Democrat. So Republicans have a 14-point advantage with married women. Single women, unmarried women, Democrats have a 68-31 advantage. That's according to exit polling from the 2022 elections. That's an enormous 37-point difference for unmarried women supporting Democrats. And Jesse Waters actually even said that the first time he started talking about this. He showed that graphic and he's like, and he just said it out loud. He's like, we have to make sure they all get married.
But like, why do you think that getting married is gonna suddenly change their political identity, right? And are you under the impression that they're going to go out of their way to marry people who disagree with their politics? Because that's also not gonna happen. Like, I actually moved further to the left after I got married.
Yeah, and of course, since people on the right wing aren't that bright, he looks at that and thinks that there's a causal connection. That the minute you get married, remember it's 37 points one way, 16 points the other way. That's an unbelievable 53-point difference, right? That the minute you get married, they're like, oh yeah, I should be a Republican. Or I will now dutifully obey my husband, and my husband's a Republican, I will now be a Republican. Dude, it ain't 1955. You're missing it. One of the reasons why married women are more Republican is because they're older. And the older demographics, not for everyone, but generally speaking, when you look at the overall numbers, 45 to 85 is solidly Republican. And they're much more likely to be married than people under 45, under 35, under 25. But these knuckleheads don't get it. They really think, oh, if we just push them in, do a lot of propaganda to push them into marriage, they'll just instantly turn Republican. That's not how it works.
And they were more likely to benefit from an economic system before it was further deregulated and further devolved into the S show that it is today. You know, I mean, think about that. The working conditions for young women, those aren't gonna magically change once they get married. So many of the issues that are currently taking place in this country right now, which leads to the political identity that people form, those issues aren't going away, thanks to people like you. So the idea that all they need to do is get married and suddenly they're gonna love conservatives is insane.